Yes.
Let's get started. All right. We do have a quorum here, so we can get started. Are there any public comments on any of the stuff that we're going to be discussing here today? Any public comments?
No one signed up to speak. No one has signed up to speak.
Okay. Seeing none, then we'll close that part of the agenda. Next is approval for the minutes of 8/9/23 and 8/29/23. Has everybody reviewed them and looked them over?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't know if anyone has mentioned, it's now a requirement that we, on action items, that we do it by roll call.
Okay.
So,
Hey, even better.
We didn't know that. Ms. Brown, call the roll, please.
Mr. Hayes?
Aye.
Mr. Hinkle?
Aye.
Ms. Lynn? Aye. Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Smith? Aye. Mr. Montgomery?
Aye.
That sounds
That's kind of official, isn't it?
Fancy.
We're fancy.
yeah.
Let's see.
Okay, that is signed. Next is the discussion of the grant software, which is the items that Ms. Jackson sent us to go over, and there was one later on in the afternoon yesterday. If you didn't see that, you need to, that one, there was just a few minor changes to that one. And I'm not sure if everybody has gone over this, but I can give you how I went over it. I laid out the application that we have now as to the draft that we had last meeting, and I just kind of went back and see the notes that we added or deleted or moved some of the items into different categories. And I think everything, from what I could tell, things lined up, and if the committee feels like we ought to go through the headlines and just make sure we are on the same page there, that is fine. I can go right through that. I think it was, I think it'd be pretty easy. Would you like to do that? Okay. Eligibility. The thing that was fixed was 12 months. And deleted government. And that, then the next was the faith-based information, which was kind of drawn out and written out, and it's just like how we had the draft when we were at the last meeting. The general information, I noted looks like the location was added. The mission statement was in there, the project name was in there, the project summary was in there. It's in the newest draft that we got yesterday.
So by location being under general information, it's not a deal breaker, but it's a point maker.
Right, so are we going to go with, so we have the evaluation and the application, should we be putting these side by side?
No, we would, well, I did the application to make sure it matched up with what we discussed that we wanted on the application.
Okay.
And then I laid down the evaluation and made sure it matched up what we were thinking. Because some of the items in and I made notes where we moved it from one item, and I know where we moved it to. We moved it into the edgeability. So on that, then general information, the location we added there, or it was added there. Mission statement was still in there, same. Project name, project summary. In the workshop that we did, we had amount requested, and that was moved into program and project design. So I made that note. So then Going on to, okay, and then also in the work session, we had what the percentage was of the request that was under general. That was moved to programs and project design. Would partial funding be affected? That was moved to project and program and project design. So it's still in there, it's just moved to a different location, if you see that. Then to program and project design, that the start date was in there, the end date was in there, the amount requested, what percentage is requested by the, that was in there. That there's the funding, the partial deal is put in that section. Focus area, that was in our workshop. Looks like the things that I see that were added under focus area was if other focus areas, please specify. That was added. I assume that came from the big notepads that we did. The project purpose was added into this programs and project design. The service area was there. Problem statement there, matched up. Program and project design, that's there. Program staffing, that was added. I have that as being added. It wasn't in our, that was another thing that we had discussed that got added. Timeline was added. Partnership and collaboration was on the workshop, and it's still in there. Leadership and governance, the organizational structure is in there. Staff structure was added, staffing structure. Volunteers was added to that section. Board description was in there from the workshop. Board of directors and officers was in there from the workshop. Succession plans in there from the workshop. Current strategies in there from the workshop, and your organization have a written board approval HR policies. That was in there from the workshop. Organizational chart was in there from the workshop. Goals and outcome, project goals were in there from the workshop. Goal measurements, challenges, all were the same. Now, then this has been added, the financial section on this new one. Other source of income. Does your organization have 4 to 6 months of operating expense? That was, I think that was something that's in there. And then there was some discussion, and Ronnie did some discussion, and I know he's been in talking with Karen. The one thing that I noticed on the evaluation versus this was the evaluation had the operating budget, their operating budget, but it didn't really address it here. But I think that item 6 in our in our list, I think Ronnie, if I'm not mistaken, and Angela, please chime in, is going to, and he just hasn't done it, create a simplified operating budget for the applicants. Because like we discussed last time, there's some people use a CPA, some people just put it on a notepad. And he's going to make a simple one for it to go into the system as their operating budget. Is that correct? Or you want to elaborate on that, Angela?
Right, a simple standardized template, I think, was the goal and one of the things that we had discussed at the workshop, so that you can compare apples to apples among the organizations, and there'll be a more consistent package. And I think his financial background in helping to identify just those key, most important things in a way that is easier to interpret for you was his goal.
And so that, I mean, we know that's coming, that's just something that the applicant's going to be filling out. It's not a kind of a question that we would have, I don't think, other than he's going to simplify it for the people. So when we see or get online, we would kind of see what that looks like.
Sure, it'll be offered as a form that will be the attachment delivered to the application.
Okay. I see here. Does your organization? Okay, yeah, does your organization have the 4 to 6 months? I had that had been moved from eligibility on the workshop draft. Mm-hmm. So it came from over there onto the financial side. And then on the attachments, just those, that's what was added, the operating budget thing that Ronnie is going to create would be an attachment. The project budget template, that's what's getting added. And this is what I had discussion with Angela about the financial questionnaire, because it's kind of confusing. What is that? And that's what we're going to say is going to be, we think, that's what I'm making the assumption is going to be the operating budget that Ronnie's creating.
Correct.
It's, call it what you want to, but that's what that's going to be, is what that simple form that they're going to fill out of their operating budget, of how they are doing. Does all that make sense? When I matched it up, we had covered a lot of things, and we added the things it seems like that were on our list. And that seemed to be important. And, keep in mind, this is all brand new and is a learning curve, and next year we are going to really probably be able to super fine tune it once we kind of get the feedback. But for the most part, I think staff did a great job on putting it together, and we're in a time crunch, and I think it's going to be I think it should be pretty user friendly. So anybody have any comment, question on any of that, on the application?
Chairman, under financials, one of the questions is, does your organization have 4 to 6 months of operating expenses in reserves? I guess that's kind of a range, and then yet we're asking a yes or no question. I would recommend, do we say, does your organization have a minimum of 4 months of operating expenses in reserves?
I think that is an excellent point, because, yes, that would be, you're going to pick the lower one anyway.
Sure.
Yeah. You got that noted, Angela? Okay. Good catch. Okay. Anything else?
When we ask for a list of their board of directors, we ask for their employment. Places of employment. Katie, can we ask that?
The board description is the 4th item on leadership and governance.
On the 5th one is board of directors and offices. Please attach a PDF copy of your list of the board list that includes officers, terms, and places of employment.
I think we can, and I think
Okay.
historically we have asked for that information.
Excellent.
Yeah. Good question. Anything else? All right. Let's go to the evaluation side. So, matching up from the workshop, the general information. On the most current one here, project name moved from project design on the workshop draft. If you notice that, that's where that came from. Project summaries, it looks like it was added. history, organization has physical location within Murfreesboro, that's added, that's one of your comments, so I remember that, and that.
Can we comment as we go on this?
Sure, please, absolutely.
So, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong with this, it looks like to me we're kind of grading the content and how it's being presented. Like we're doing an academic grading of how someone is writing this grant. I don't know how to write that different. Do y'all see what I mean? Like,
How do you score it?
how do you score? I mean, I just don't know that someone's English writing skills should be, well, we should give them money or not. Just,
What's the weight on this?
We want to know how they do a good job with the money.
Hey, there's Chat GPT now.
It's 5 points.
Kidding.
It's only 5 points, and like one of the items is history, and we can grade on a 1 to 5. Do they have an office in Murfreesboro? If they're out of town but do work here, that would be lower rated than having a central office in town.
okay, so I personally, and that was another note. Okay, so we're not grading on the name of the project summary part? Like this, 1 to 5 scale, very badly written, did not understand, like, that's the general information section,
I wouldn't
right?
think we'd grade that part, the project name.
And the project summary?
Angela, we wouldn't be grading that, would we? The name and the,
No, the ones that you grade have the scoring option 1 to 5 or scoring option 1 to 10.
Okay.
oh, yeah, they got red asterisks by them.
I see. So on the history, like, I believe that what we talked about was that we just wanted to have that information. Like, in the workshop, that we wanted to know if they had a physical location in Murfreesboro, or how many years of service they've been in Murfreesboro, but not that that was going to be scored.
I think we should score the history part because I would like to give weight to, and this is a small number, it's 5, the next one's 50. I do agree with your comment about how it's written. I'm very forgiving with people who can't spell correctly. However,
about that-
if the office is in Murfreesboro, I would think that has a physical location in Murfreesboro, that could be weighted. It's a small portion, and I think that we may want to make it 1 to 4 or 1 to 3 or something.
Can I add something to what you're saying about the location in Murfreesboro? I thought that was going to be a requirement. So it's not a requirement.
Not a requirement, but it's a plus, and that's why it's graded 1 to 5.
See, I thought
Okay.
we definitely had a big conversation about it, like, I thought we just wanted the information about if they had a location in Murfreesboro.
I think mandatory would be a physical address in Murfreesboro.
I thought that's what we decided.
I was thinking that was
Yeah.
something that we
See, I think we
know there was a
didn't
lot of
decide, I think that we came back to, do you have one? It wasn't a mandatory.
I mean, it can
With
be.
this example that was used was Second Harvest. So Second
Right.
Harvest has a warehouse in Laverne, but they don't have a warehouse in Murfreesboro. But Lord knows, Second Harvest is in Murfreesboro. And the reason they have a warehouse in Laverne and not in Murfreesboro is because it's way cheaper to have a warehouse in Laverne. They're a nonprofit, but they are actively engaged in the city of Murfreesboro. So that's why I think we said we would weigh it, but it wasn't a rejection. You know, we would hear them out. Here's the reason why our location's in Laverne. This is what we are doing in Murfreesboro. Here are the groups that we are working with in the city of Murfreesboro, the ministries that we're doing, or vice versa. You know, it wasn't as I understood it wouldn't kick them out, but to your point, we would weigh it.
That was my understanding also.
Okay.
So, but it wasn't a huge, as I understand, it wasn't a huge number. It wasn't like,
Well, 1 to 5 is not a huge
Yeah.
number.
so that's how I understood what we settled on.
You good with that?
I'm good with that, as long as we all understand that if another food bank, that's the Murfreesboro Food Bank, is cranking up and we don't fund them, but we fund Second Harvest because they're awesome, then people are going to say, well, we're taking Murfreesboro dollars and giving it to some out of Nashville and Laverne.
And so Wade, to your point.
That's why I agree. I
To
agree
your
with
point,
you.
we have Nourish Food Bank in Murfreesboro,
Yeah.
located in Murfreesboro, but Second Harvest gives them food. Like, I mean, that's part of how Nourish stays open is through Second Harvest. So it's
And that'll always be up to this committee to weigh that the way they want to weigh it.
That's right.
And that may be the only example for the whole year, is that one,
right.
or there may be 20 of them.
Live Hospice is the same way. The main office is in Nashville, and all the business is done, and then, but we have our residents here.
Correct.
And all the money can be funneled when it's marked. You have a way to say Rutherford County only on there.
Right.
After we finish this discussion, we should probably go back and review the weighing scale. This is 5 points, the next one's 50, but we probably need to finish before we.
Yeah, I was going to go to that next. I agree with him wholeheartedly. The lower the number, if you can do 5 rather than 10, do 5. If you can do 3 rather than 5, it's an easier scaling.
Okay, now, just explain what you're.
Okay, so this bottle right here, a full bottle is 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is that? An 8, maybe a 7. But on a scale of 1 to 5, that's a 4. So the smaller the number, the easier it is for us to assign a number to it. The smaller the graduation is.
So you're wanting to make this first part, this history part, lower numbers, 1 to.
I would say 1 through 5 on any kind of scoring would be sufficient.
The reason
Well-
for the 1 to 5 versus the 1 to 10 is to allow the weight of the more important questions
Yes.
to weigh heavier.
Yeah.
That 50 point deal.
Was what we next.
I
I think we're going to have to just roll and see. I mean, I know if they're sitting in Murfreesboro, I'm probably going to score a lot higher, obviously, than somebody that's not sitting in Murfreesboro.
Yeah, no, I'm back on just the actual, whatever it is we're
Scale.
grading.
Okay.
Are we going to do 1 to 10, 1 to 5, or 1 to 50?
It depends on how many are available. The next one, there's 50 available.
Mr. Hayes, if you look at the different pieces, where it says scoring option in blue underneath, you'll see that they're not all the same. Some are 1 to 5 and some are 1 to 10. So that the weight of the ones that are 1 to 10, like it's possible to get 10 points on one question, but only 5 on the other because it has
Thank you.
less priority and less value. And then
Thanks for
that will
clearing
mean
that
when the totals come together, it will be more reflective of what you all expressed was more important to you.
That makes sense.
And
I'm there now.
Let me, while I'm talking, if I can go back to the scale piece, we can rewrite that to reflect content rather than writing style. Ms. Smith, if
Thank
that's.
you. That'd be great.
Which I see where you're coming with that. And then, Mr. Montgomery, if you want on these pieces, if we don't have consensus, I think we can call to a vote individual items.
Okay.
I mean, up to you, of course.
Okay, so as far as the rewriting what you're talking about, we don't need a vote on that. You're just going to do that, right?
If that's the,
Is that the consensus of the group to make it not, we can't vote on every high school and give me a lot of red X's?
Yeah.
Okay.
and
Got
then we
it.
can do an overall vote at the end for the
Okay.
as amended.
Okay, and then, so back to the history and the scoring there, is everybody fine with that? What we have down?
Yes, sir.
Project design, this is the 50-point one. Project design. Okay, in the workshop, the project name was moved to general information, so if you're looking at your workshop. And then the current one, under project alignment is all the items, line item items there. If anybody's got any questions about that part before we move to project relevance. and that's a 1 to 10 score. And then project relevance, that was added in, and those 5 items with a 1 to 10 score. And there again, this very first one is just going to be, how they fill it out, we're going to probably learn quite a bit for next year's with feedback. But project capacity, that was in the workshop. Project design and description was added, and again, stop me at any point when you see something you want to discuss, but project design and description was an added item. Service area was an added item from our discussion. Partnership and collaboration was part of the workshop.
Can we, on the project design and description, is that not covered already? Tell me if I'm wrong.
Well,
And that's part of the 50 point.
it's in the 50 point. It's a 1 to 10.
It's a 1 to 10. So, project alignment, item 1, and project description.
It's already covered,
It's under this heading, project design.
but there's another one on page 3.
Project design 50 is the heading piece, and the 50 includes the sum.
Oh, I see, I'm
that's the-
sorry.
Alignment, 10 for relevance, 10 for capacity.
Now I see.
But
So
it,
that's all, through project design and description is the 50. Those are the 1 through 10s.
Well, and 1 through 5s, and all of that, with a perfect score would be 50.
Correct. Service area was added, that's a 1 to 5. Partnership and collaboration, that was in the workshop. Leadership and governance, organizational structure was in there.
I'm going to back you up, Carl, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
please.
Partnerships and collaborations gets 1 to 5 points. So we're going to give up to 5 points if they involve other organizations in this project, and up to 0 points if they're doing it all themselves. Is that our intent?
Well, you'd have to give them a 1. I guess it's 1 to
Yes, I'm
1 to
sorry.
5.
Okay.
A suggestion, if that's a concern, is we could add a line of, to reflect whether it's needed or relevant. You know, like you could still score an independent project high if they proved they could handle it.
You know, it's a 4-point difference. I'm okay with this. I think that's something we should encourage.
Okay.
You talking about being partner?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it can't hurt, I wouldn't think.
That's exactly one of those items that we won't know till we tackle it.
Exactly.
And then if it's a problem, then we might have to readdress it.
Exactly. Yep. Anything else on leadership and governance? All those items seem to be in our workshop.
The highlighted in red reflected the change that was sent in the second draft, and that was just spelling out executive director when before it said ED.
Project outcome and evaluation. Goals and objectives were in the workshop, and the clear measurable outcomes was also in the workshop. Budget and finance. I had all those items in the, that are in the new current draft that we discussed in the workshop, unless somebody sees something different. That's where, down at the bottom's where I had annual operating budget. in the evaluation, and I didn't see it in the application, but they were calling it, they called it something else. But that's, Ronnie is going to make that simple thing, and it'll be an attachment, and that's what that'll be.
Good deal.
Does anybody have anything on the budget and finance? The funding decision, let's see. All those items were in the workshop. Is there any discussion on the evaluation section or draft that the staff has put together?
Okay, so we're going to have a scoring system, and we're going to have applications, and we're all going to score, and the computer's going to average these things out, and there'll be a solid number, so we'll have foundations for giving our answers, our recommendations. But then, how do we decide, because I see the question is, how much would you recommend? And then how do we decide then, I guess at a meeting, to how much to fund each individual organization?
So when we do our software training, I think that we'll be able to play around with that, and that will help answer that question more clearly. But I think abstractly, what that looks like is, from what we had talked about, kind of a top to bottom, spend it till it's gone piece, right? So the organization that scores the highest,
Gets the most.
and to go down from there. When, in the application where the question asks, if you don't receive your full amount, are you still interested? Which, back to the pizza video, right? Like if we give you $8, can you and would you make a smaller pizza, right? So I think the hard part there for the math that is yet to come is in determining, are you interested in the full amount requested for each organization because you want to provide enough funding to have maximum impact for the project itself? Or do you want to say, I read your application, you asked for $50,000, you answered the question to say, hey, what would you do if you had less, in a way that makes me really comfortable giving you 25 instead? And so from there, we're going to have to make those decisions, and I believe that the software will allow that. It will facilitate being able to have those conversations, because that's a very common function in grant making.
Excellent.
And I also will add, whenever we look at the additional information for the categories that were laid out by the trust, from the education and youth services, victim services, from that piece, because there are maximum amounts in each area, that will be the kind of the secondary focus. We won't just be spending from highest score to lowest score. We'll be taking one category high and then spend until we're at maximum capacity, and then move to the next category.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So when we're through with our personal evaluations, are we going to come in and vote together about, are we going to go through these and say, like, this is where we had, this is with the scoring as this committee, which we're all going, a 5 for me might be a 4 for Carl, and we still might have priorities.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Like, so are we going to come back in and kind of go through the top applications and then decide on the distribution?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you'll want to confirm that the information presented in the scoring system reflected your actual intention and ultimate recommendation. So then we will look to come back together, finalize the recommendation of this committee that will go to the trust, that will then go for approval by council.
Is there any information out there that is available that would suggest that an organization that needs 50 grand would ask for 75, hoping that they cut it down to, I know that has to happen.
Sure. Like as far as the organization training and asking for the appropriate amount?
Yeah.
I'm sure that there is, and it's interesting from that standpoint, what kind of trainings are available to nonprofits, especially those that are very dependent on grant writing in particular. I know that at the tech center, the library tech center, there, Christy Houston Foundation funded a specific program for nonprofits to utilize where they can go in and receive additional training, and hosts training for our local nonprofits as a part of some of that. I'd be happy to just share that information, just because it is one of the resources that will be available to a lot of our applicants. There is good information available. I think the thing that we can do in that piece is being clear in our application guidelines of what that looks like. For the, let's see, the funding amounts where we said requested amount should not exceed $65,000. Average award amount is anticipated to be between $10,000 and $25,000. That's the part where we're coaching them. And that's the reason for the question about, hey, can you work within that? And then I think the onus is on them to answer those questions in a way that conveys confidence from this group that they would spend the amount awarded well.
Right. I mean, that question almost has to be in there
Yes, I think so.
because of that. Okay.
I think so.
And their spreadsheet will say a lot, too.
Spell it out.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, on the guidelines, there was a few changes from the original one that we got on the 6th, or the 11th, or 6th, I guess, which were, does everybody understand down there under funding amount on the first page, it says shall not exceed $65,000, which is 25% of the $275,000 anticipated that we're going to get. That's what that number is from. And the page 2 was they deleted government and changed the 6 months to 12 months. And I think that's it. Is that it, Ms. Jackson, on the changes?
In the application guidelines, we also,
Yeah.
there was a format change, but on the last page of that document, we were trying to alleviate some confusion for the applicant regarding how the money would be distributed from that 20%, 15%, 10%. We were worried that read that the applicant was going to have to design their program around meeting individual components and try to anticipate the backside of that. So we took that information out of the guidelines for the applicant. It's still available for transparency of the process and in other areas of the document, but for the applicant itself, we did not want to confuse what they were asking for by providing that information because it was more backside data rather than front side need.
Makes sense.
And it added up to 45%, and I was confused about that. Like, I thought it was 100% we were giving away.
Well,
Anyway, it was,
There's other category on their application.
yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, so that's that, which, again, I think staff did a great job on putting that together. The other items are just, I guess, wording stuff. I'm not really sure what.
The intention of when Karen provided that was so that when you looked at the character limits in the application, you could customize the scope which you would like to review. So when you look at what she provided in that document, and when you look at the character limit in the individual cells of the application, go to the application itself and look at, for example, on page 3, where it says character limit 1,800 under what would be the project summary. So she provided that document for you to know what you're getting into. Do you want to limit the characters so that you are reviewing less information and requiring them to be more succinct? Or do you want to give them more characters so that they can say whatever it is they want to say and you're willing to read it?
I reviewed the character limits y'all suggest, and I think they're appropriate. We've talked about we could be going through 100 applications, so we don't want to get too long, yet we want to provide enough space for them to do it. And I'm in agreement with their recommendations.
Did y'all think, and just, I don't have that printout you were talking about. On page 4, the one that said 5,000 character limit, did you think that was excessive or no? Because I don't know it. It's on page 4.
Of the application?
Of the application, the character limit is 5,000.
Well,
But I don't have that printout showing what 5,000 characters is, so that's what I thought.
according to the way this sample, it's basically a typewritten page.
Sermons are technically 2,000. I mean, that's a lot.
More reason to go here, Dr. Hinkle.
Brevity is very, very much my stick. That's a lot of characters.
That's a good
It's an
catch.
essay.
Collier.
Thank you. We're doing college essays and we don't have
What do you
anything
think would
5,000. We are doing college
Do
essays.
you have that printout that was provided, that kind of just, what Karen did with that piece was show you examples of an application that she had submitted on behalf of the city and how succinct she would have to be for each level. It really is up to you. I welcome the change and we're happy to put it wherever the group is comfortable putting it.
Does the committee think 5,000 is too many?
Yes.
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 Agreed.
What would you like us to set it at?
10.
Characters?
Just kidding. Just kidding.
10.
Well, the example of 2,500 characters is half a typewritten page in bold. So essentially, we're asking them to put it in one typewritten page, and that's the guts of the application, what we can do with the money. You know, for some people, that will be plenty. For others, they'll have to trim it down a little bit.
Can I see your?
A page is how many characters?
About 5,000.
5,000 is,
2,500
It's your time.
going to right here.
So let's-
2,500.
It's a little, about 3/4 of a page.
That's, you
For
said
2,500.
2,500? Yeah.
3/4. That's probably, if somebody needed to explain something pretty detailed, I think surely they can give it in 3/4 of a page, wouldn't they? 2,500.
It will require some people to cut to the chase. But like I say, there's just a limit to how much.
They wouldn't put as much fluff.
Yes.
Agreed.
It's just,
Let's just
They
get
have to cut to the
the
chase and
point.
get down to the point,
What does the
yes.
software company recommend? Do they, is there a golden number that,
They had different suggestions along the way in the piece, but really, and I don't know if that's where the 5,000 comes for this. The advisor, when Karen and I were doing our training, seemed, I don't know from a best practices standpoint, but I think from his experience, what I took out of that was that different organizations have very different philosophies with it, and it really does depend from a scoring standpoint. I don't know how many applications that you're going to get, but I assume that it will be a lot. So I think that requiring a smaller amount with.
Less is better.
It could be, sure. No, want to change it to 3,000, 4,000, even something to trim it down, it's up to you.
2,500?
500 looks like a plan.
If the committee's fine with 2,500,
Do we need to vote?
do we need a vote?
I think we should vote on this one.
Okay.
Okay, we are voting on program/project design character limit to be $2,500. Is there a motion anywhere?
2,500
So moved.
What did I say, 2,500?
dollars.
Oh, this is
I'm
not
an
an
auctioneer, sorry.
auction here. We're going to auction for this.
Figure.
He would get 25, 30, he would get 35? That's all right. Don't put that on the record, please. Okay, to be 2,500 characters max. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Do we have
Is there a
to,
second?
do we have to do the roll call vote?
Yes. We have a motion and a second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Mr. Hayes?
Aye.
Mr. Hinkle?
Aye.
Ms. Lynn?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Montgomery?
Aye. Motion passes.
And of course, the reality is, we can look and go through the process. If we need to, next year, say, well, we should have given them 3,000, 4,000.
Sure.
We can change that, but
That's right.
I think we made less is more, in my opinion, in this moment.
Agreed. I'm sure we're going to have changes next year, but we've got to get something started, so.
Well, should we go back to service area? I mean, should we look through all these?
The characters, you mean?
Yeah. Or we can individually do that, but
Yeah.
Yeah. 1,500 is not going to be a lot.
Is there one in particular, Collier?
I thought 1,500 was a lot, but
It's a lot.
I'm going to go with Carl, so on that.
And it's not like they're going to do 1,500 every
Yeah.
applicant's not going to do 1,500.
No, that other one was just blatant.
And there again, like I say, next year, we'll probably figure out that this one needs more, this one needs less.
I think you're right, though, till we really actually see somebody submit one. You never know, with the different styles.
Okay. Is there anything else? You got anything else? Okay.
A quick question on that.
Yes.
How many applications does the city get now for requests for?
We have traditionally funded approximately 35 different organizations, but have not done open applications. We have been in a transitional process for what was supposed to be 3 and ultimately was stretched into 4 years, where we were not issuing requests for proposals and opening up a full grant application. So it is, I don't think it's a fair
No way to know, yeah. That's why I think we have to have some strong disqualifiers at the beginning.
Right.
How many do you think we'll get?
100 of these things,
100.
yeah.
Have you heard from anybody outside the 35 that?
There's a lot of interest,
Okay.
for sure. And when we open the application, we will do a press release, we will do an outreach, we will put it on Charity Tracker, we will notify the organizations that we work with, we'll notify some of the umbrella organizations such as United Way and the organizations, like, to make sure that, I say we, I mean Mike. We will make sure that we are getting that information to all of the potential applicants. This first year especially, that's going to be important because there have been a lot of people waiting on this process for a while. And I think that, especially since we have done something different for so long, that there's going to be additional interest. And I think just because of the public nature of the origin of the funds, there will be additional interest. And because the organizations have not had a historical participation in the process, there will be some that will apply the first year, probably, that won't additional years, just while they're learning. And then others, I mean, I obviously can't predict, but I think I will be very surprised if there's not enough to keep you all very busy. Yes, ma'am.
Suffice to say, there'll at least be 35
Yes.
applications.
Certainly, yes.
In the media release, will it say we have this amount of money to spend this year? Because everybody that I talk to thinks we're going to have 500 million or like some outrageous,
And we'll work with Mr. Browning.
Yeah.
We can, we won't know the exact amount, but
Really upset.
maybe using some software around the approximate piece would, I think would be a pretty smart move. It's a great point.
Okay. Any other business? This went pretty quick.
Do we need a kind of an overarching approval? We voted on some specific items, but if you all could approve us to move forward with setting up the software with the application and evaluation as amended.
Okay.
As we need to, before we do that, we should probably review, I'm in agreement with it, but review the scoring. Each category is scored, and then each question is scored. And the scoring of that's going to determine who gets what. So that's a very important issue. I think we should, I want to make sure everyone's okay with that before we do what Angela just said.
I mean, I've looked at the scoring, and I was fine with it, but somebody may have a different opinion. And we need to wait on John, too, before we vote.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to determine the outcome, is how heavily the various questions are weighed.
Is there anything in particular that you see that you
Want to kick out?
want to pull out? I mean, I think it kind of matches up with our workshop, other than we weighted it heavily in that 50% deal.
Let me just throw
50
this
point, I
out
mean.
for discussion. At the top of page 3, there's project design and description.
Yep.
The project design/description was well-written, easy to understand, succinctly and clearly articulated the need and scope and impact of the project.
That's another thing, right, about someone's writing.
Yeah.
What page are you on?
I mean, it could be,
Yeah.
3 of the valuation.
Hey, guys, here's a way to address that. Could we remove 2 words, the well-written? Because we're not judging, we're not ranking them by how well it's written, it's by the impact of the project.
Yeah.
Easy to understand is,
But it still needs to be easy to understand.
yeah, well, we're leaving that part. I'm suggesting leaving that part. I'm just taking out 2 words. So we're not grading on anyone's, like Collier mentioned, we're not grading anyone's writing skills. We want to be able to easily understand it, succinctly and clearly articulate the need, and evaluate the impact of the project.
And we're talking about,
I would clear it and go all the way to clearly articulates the need, scope, and impact of the project.
rid of well-written.
Okay.
We're trying to
Clean that up.
tighten this up.
I would go from well-written, scratch that out, easy to understand succinctly, and just go,
The project description clearly articulated the need, the scope, and the impact of the project.
yes.
Did you get that?
That's my suggestion. I don't know that that's what Lyle
That
thinks.
modification, I would rank it as a 1 to 10 point question.
Yeah. Okay.
Change
I
the
think
word
we should probably
articulate.
vote on that.
yeah.
We need to vote, because I think you cleared that up, and you cleaned it up.
Word articulate to define. Clearly define.
Yeah, because articulate's a writing word.
Okay.
It's a college word.
Angela, are you right, you know what they're saying?
Project design and description was clearly
Defined.
defined, or clearly defines the needs, scope, and impact of the project.
There we go.
Is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
So say we all of us.
Do we need to take a vote on that?
If you don't mind.
Okay. Okay.
I move that we change the wording of project design and description as previously articulated.
By Angela. We have a motion, is there a second? Call the roll.
Mr. Hayes?
Aye.
Mr. Hinkle?
Aye.
Ms. Lynn? Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Montgomery?
Aye. That was good. Wow. I mean, that's a good way to clean that up. Okay, I'm going to make a note
Is there
here.
something else we were voting on?
The application and evaluation as a whole.
To go on, yeah. We're waiting on you.
Okay.
All right. It's good.
Anything else jump out at you on that before we go to the next item on the agenda, which is other business? Okay. All right, next on the agenda is other business. Is there any other business that we need to be discussing?
I just have one. It sounds very selfish since I was gone all summer long. I have a standing meeting at noon on Tuesdays.
Okay.
I get out at 1 on the dot. Could we move the meeting back 15 minutes to 1:15?
I have no problem with
Would
that.
that throw?
I'm fine.
It's been advertised as one, is that right?
So when's the next meeting?
September 26th at 1 o'clock. I believe it's okay to start late.
Well, we don't even start
early.
at 1.
I think it's already been advertised.
Chit chat.
I can't be here.
So when we advertise the next, no, I mean, I can rearrange my schedule, but if we, starting in October, if it could be,
Oh, so that's an ongoing
it's
piece.
every Tuesday.
Could we make it 1:30?
I can make it 1:30.
I can make it 1:30.
1:30.
That'd be beautiful.
Moving
1:30 would be
forward, we'll
better
make
for
that
me.
adjustment.
So the next one will be 1:30. Is that right?
Which is when?
2 weeks.
The 26th.
The next one is our,
Yeah, the next one's already been advertised. The next one needs to begin at 1 o'clock.
That's fine. I can,
And I'll
Moving
slow
forward.
walk the start.
you're a good man.
Thank you. So yes, the next meeting is September 26th at 1 PM. And did you have some other business?
could you call the,
Oh, yes,
the vote
yes, oh,
for
yes,
completion?
yes. Is there a motion to approve the application and evaluation staff has prepared based on all the changes that we have made? Is that correct?
But the edits, we have some edits that
And
are coming in.
edits, and
As edited.
as edited, as our committee has edited. So moved.
Angela is going to edit
I second.
the scoring
Do you
rating.
want me to?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a
Second.
second. Is there any discussion? Does everybody understand? Call the roll.
Mr. Hayes?
Aye.
Mr. Hinkle?
Aye.
Ms. Lynn?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Montgomery?
Aye. You know, we get along really well.
We do.
I like this committee.
It's a great group. I appreciate the 4 hours you all spent to get us to this point. And since Karen's not here, I want to give her so much credit for taking the notes.
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
implementing this. Did a really good job. Washington DC.
Vacay or be?
Okay.
Fun.
Right?
Okay. If there's nothing else, we stand adjourned.